Hey there, thanks for joining me. It's just another sim guy here, and welcome back to another Pimax Crystal Super settings video. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? So as you can see, we're in RaceRoom, and the recordings are looking pretty smooth. I've done some open wheel stuff against AI just to demo it, and I'll also show some clips shortly of some Mazda stuff online. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's not been without a niggle or two, and I've been playing with the settings in SteamVR, I've been playing with the settings on Pimax, the in-game settings, trying to find a nice balance. I'm not a big fan of SteamVR, so if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that from me already. I am still getting some micro stutters. I think it would be really good if we could avoid SteamVR altogether on this game. I've been able to optimize things like Dirt Rally 2 so much better, looking so much better with so much less demand on the rig, and been able to turn up the settings and stuff a lot more by going past SteamVR and using OpenXR, but it's not an option. Unfortunately for RaceRoom, yeah, it's not an option. So yeah, as you can see, the footage looks really good. You can see a little bit of stuttering, and I'm getting some micro stuttering in my headset, which I'm still trying to iron out, but I thought it was a good time to share where I am up to so far, and see if this helps other people get the best out of the sim. So without further ado, let's take a look. Okay, so we're on to RaceRoom. I'll go through the settings in a minute. Before I do, for RaceRoom, we have no choice but to use SteamVR. So if you're on the Open Composite switcher like I am, and pretty much everything you can get away with, you avoid Steam and use OpenXR, you'll need to switch this back, first of all, so it's using SteamVR. And also in the configure tab, I do have RaceRoom. You can right click it and you can put always use SteamVR. So the ones that I've set to always SteamVR are there. The one that I've set to always Open Composite are there, if that helps you. I still leave the OpenXR toolkit open. Don't think you need to, but it doesn't do any harm. I just leave it open all the time, basically. So there's that. And then if we go into the general device settings, again, leave it, most of this is the same. I don't touch this from game to game. So if you've seen my other settings videos, it's always the same. The key here for me is the lighting, 50 Hertz. I leave the refresh rate at 72. It still looks really good and really smooth to me, and it gives me headroom for recording and streaming. The brightness I've lowered to 90. The rest of it I don't touch here unless you're adjusting your IPD. And that is everything there. In the general tab, I do leave that set to OpenXR, but it will be overrun by SteamVR in a second. And the advanced tab, I haven't touched anything. So if we go to games, this was a tricky one to optimize. There are some settings here in Pimax. We're also going to look at some settings in SteamVR as well. And then obviously the in-game settings. But in here, we've got normal FOV. Image quality, I've gone to custom and I've lowered it. I'm playing with this still at the moment, but 0.67. I mean, if you put it on medium and look at it, it's 7.5. If you put it on low, it's 50. So it's sort of part way between the two, 66, 67. I might try it a bit higher if I'm not recording maybe, but that's the sweet spot that I've hit at the moment. GPU upscaling, sharpness, both of those are on 0. Dynamic foveated rendering can't be used in RaceRoom as far as I'm aware, so I've turned that off. I haven't turned on any of these except for hidden area mask, and then the rest of it is pretty much down to personal needs. So that's that, and then we'll have a quick look at SteamVR. Okay, so looking in SteamVR settings now. So if you need to know where to go, you get Steam up and running, and then in the little Steam dialog box, you click on the little burger menu there and you go to settings and you're there. So when I'm playing, I will open up Steam from Pimax. So start SteamVR from there, and then it brings up the dashboard and start the game from there. So I don't know if the order makes a difference, but if you're having any problems doing it in any other way, perhaps doing it that way will help. So a lot of this is the same, but refresh rate are 72. Obviously that matches, I don't set that, that matches what I've got set in Pimax. Motion smoothing, I would always have that off. Render resolution, if you leave it 100%, it's going to try and work way too hard. And this was something I really struggled with. So although this looks really, really low in terms of the percentage, and again, I do go a little bit lower than this for the game actually in a minute. This is what I found for it to be stable for RaceRoom. You might have to come back and play with this for other games, but I don't use, and I don't want to use SteamVR for very many games. This is the first one I've got to where I've got no choice. So I'll just need to remember to tweak this. But for now, it's stable, as you can see by the footage. I get the odd little shake and I get the odd little frame skip, stutter, perhaps you want to call it online, perhaps when I'm recording as well. But it's definitely playable and it looks decent. So yeah, so I have this set to that slider down for resolution per eye, notifications off, SteamVR off, and then if you go into video, you can actually set some settings per game as well. So again, that bit at the top hasn't changed. Super sampling off, overlay render quality low. And then if you go into per application, you can select RaceRoom in there. And as you can see, I've dropped it even further. Leave the custom scale at 100%. If you try and mess around with that, I've had crazy problems where it seems like it's projecting sort of the eyes where they don't line up, and it just gives you like a weird blurred effect. If you close one of your eyes, it looks fine, but if you look at both lenses at the same time, it's like they're overlapping. It's odd, hard to explain. But yeah, I wouldn't go messing around with that. But if you've got any problems, you can lower that up or down, obviously depending on your system. But that is what I found with that as the per game slider and that as the overall slider. What you'll find is whatever you set that to, that becomes what 100% is in this slider, and then you can lower it down from there. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, so that's Pimax Play. That's the Pimax Play General, Pimax Play per game. That's Steam General, Steam for this specific game. And then, like I say, I open up Pimax client first, start Steam from there. Then you've got Steam in the headset. Then you start the game from Steam in the headset. And then we'll go into the in-game settings quickly. Okay, so we go up to the options, graphics and display. So I've got mine set to borderless windows, 16:9, 3840 by 2160 at 60 Hertz is the same as the display that I use. Anti-aliasing at 8 times if you can. Menu HUD, it does say it doesn't recommend having it more than that when you try and adjust it. There are other options, but it does say it doesn't recommend having it more than that. So I just leave it and then try and make it bigger using the UI button to increase it. So these are the high impact settings. Quite useful that it tells you which ones are the highest impact. They are repeated in some of these other menus. Some of these are repeated, but so anti-aliasing we just spoke about. I've put car reflections on medium, mirrors medium, shadows medium for now. Limit the cars to 20, which is plenty. Motion blur is off, particles high. These ones don't have as much impact, and you'll see when you hover on them, it tells you on the right hand side what sort of level of benefit you get versus what sort of impact it's having on either GPU or CPU. So if you use any sort of monitoring tool and you know that one of those is in need of some headroom, you can decide which ones to turn up or down. I leave bloom on, depth of field off, and I don't touch either of these two. For the track, shadows medium, track level of detail high, texture high. Again, the visual benefit against the impact of these is sort of a no-brainer really. The shadows does have a really big impact on the GPU, so medium for that. Again, just a reminder, I do leave some headroom for recording and streaming. And then for car, again, this is repeated, 20 cars, medium reflections, car texture quality I've got to high, and shadows are on. And in the cockpit, that should allow for a little bit less of rendering of something that's not that essential. You know, not loading the opponent's cockpits. Show the driver's seat, yes. Rear mirror medium, animated driver wheel and hands. Obviously for VR, you want to see what looks like it's supposed to be your hands on the wheel and a wheel. Steering animation matches the car. If you don't have that set to match the car, it does sometimes not match where you're rotating and it makes my brain confused when my hands turn a certain amount around the wheel and the graphics don't match it. It just breaks the immersion, if nothing else. And yeah, that should be about it. So we'll go back to the game footage and you'll see what sort of results we're getting. So as I said at the beginning, it's not quite nailed down 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. Now where most games are going to struggle, I think, is online. At the beginning of the race, where you've got quite a lot of cars on the grid. As you can see, I was in a grid of about 24, 25 cars here. A lot of them in front of me, a few of them in the mirrors. Unfortunately for me, where I started. But yeah, I mean, you can see it looks pretty good. Like I was saying before, in my headset, it's all right. I think I'm 95% of the way there. Still getting some stuttering. But to be honest, I don't know if it's a game issue or an issue that I can optimize, because I have tried lowering settings and I've tried higher settings. And obviously when you put the settings up, you do get to a point where things will struggle a lot more, and I can see that the headroom is getting close, particularly when recording. But when you lower things, it gets to the point where it stutters a little bit, and then you can lower things right down and have a lot less quality, especially in the distance, and especially, you know, with cars that aren't really right in the distance, but cars that are just sort of going out of view, a little bit like these ones are now. You can get them pixelated, horribly pixelated, and things that are getting close to the horizon, you know, the surroundings, horribly pixelated, but with exactly the same amount of stuttering. So the stuttering doesn't seem to be coming from the GPU and what it's trying to show you, and the headset and what it's trying to show you. I'm wondering if those stutters are just going to be there in the game regardless, so that there's no benefit to turning things down. You might as well have it looking decent and stuttering than looking terrible and still stuttering, in my eyes. But yeah, so I've tried to show that in the footage. Don't know if it comes through particularly well, because obviously you don't get to see in the footage exactly what I see in the headset, but you can see you don't get exactly the same amount of smoothness that you get in some of the other games that we've been sort of maxing out and trying. So yeah, there's still a little bit of playing to do. I will update this video if I find a better way, but at the moment, you know, for me, this is perfectly playable, and to be honest, the game can still be a lot of fun. And once you get into it and you start racing, you can adjust your sort of playing, and you can get used to this, and you can overlook some of these little issues, because at times RaceRoom does offer some really good competitive close racing. So you know, if you're okay with it and you can look past it, then you can still have a lot of fun in the sim. There goes another guy. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if this helped you at all. If you've got any questions, please let me know. I do pride myself on replying to every single comment. But don't forget to like, sub, share, and all that good stuff. And hopefully I'll see you soon on track. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.